The topic of Chapter 8 is communication and technology in relationships. This chapter goes right in line with Session 6, entitled Communication. So in order to complete your Session 6 lecture notes, we are going to review and read Chapter 8. Feel free to pause this video at any time if you would like to reread a portion of the chapter, or if you would like to complete your notes as I go through this lecture guide. Beginning in Chapter 8, you will see bolded terms, effective communication, and nonverbal communication. Remember, when you are completing these Cornell notes, your notes are going to go on the right-hand side in a different colored font. Don't forget to explain what effective communication is. Sometimes students are forgetting to complete the notes for the first term. Once you have reviewed and typed in what effective and nonverbal communication looks like, I would like for you to provide some examples of nonverbal communications within relationships. As a reminder, the family unit, which is what we are reviewing in SOC 213, has a lot to do with relationships. Communication within those relationships that lead the family unit is a very important factor to pay attention to. If we think about relationships, we may see that depending upon the gender of the people in the relationship, the communication may occur differently. So moving on into the gender, culture, and communication section of Chapter 8, I would like for you to read and summarize the gender differences in communication section. Here we have a reflection question. Do you feel that effective communication is the key to relationship success? So based upon what you've read thus far in Chapter 8 and your personal experience, do you feel that effective communication is the key to relationship success? There is no right or wrong answer here. This is your experience and how it has shaped your answer. Make sure that when you are answering on the right-hand side. Your response will always go on the right-hand side, and that you are changing the color of your text. Moving on, I would like for you to read and summarize the section entitled Cultural Differences in Communication. A large portion of Session 6 notes are going to surround the following section entitled Making Choices for Effective Communication. There are 15 bolded points in your textbook that span the course of multiple pages. Make sure that you not only address the bolded words that make up each one of the 15 points, but you summarize what those points mean to you. Once you have completed those 15 points, I want you to reflect on which one of those previous 15 choices is the most difficult for you in your relationships to go through with. Think about which one of those is most difficult. and then explain why you feel that way. Remember, your response goes on the right-hand side, and your response is always in a different color. Next, we go to the self-disclosure and secrets section. Read or reread that section and summarize the most important points that you took away from that particular section. Continuing on to address technology within relationships, you're going to read through this section, and it spans the course of several pages as well. As we all know, technology is a way that we communicate in multiple relationships. So imagine what technology has done for communication. Also, we are going to review the conflict resolution section. If you're thinking about a relationship or the adults within a family unit, I hope you would see that conflict resolution, or figuring out how to get along, or how to address each other after a conflict has occurred, is something that is truly important for the healthy functioning of a family unit or the adult relationship that is leading that family unit. There is a lot to be reviewed in conflict resolution, and a lot of times students tend to report that they see things in their own behavior that may or may not help the conflict resolution in their own relationships. There are 2 reflection questions that ask you to analyze the positive and negative aspects of technology. Remember, you're answering on the right-hand side in a different colored font. Finally, when you've reached the end of Chapter 8, we see 3 summary questions for you to address. The first asks you how important communication within a relationship is to you. Hopefully, once you have read through this chapter and reviewed these sections, you are going to know how important communication truly is. The next summary question is going to ask you to go back through the chapter and review some of the key terms or those bolded vocabulary words that you've come across throughout the chapter. Select just one of those terms that you didn't exactly know what it meant before you read the chapter, and then explain what that term truly means. And then finally, given what you know and what you've learned from the chapter about the rate at which technology is growing, I'd like to see your opinion on communication for the future. Do you feel that communication within relationships is going to get better or going to get worse due to the new technology? And why? Why do you feel that way? This is always an interesting student reflection. If you have additional questions about Chapter 8, please reach out. But in the past, students have not really struggled with this chapter because communicating is something that most of us are pretty good at, or it may be something that we know we might need to work on. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. If not, go ahead and complete your Session 6 notes surrounding Chapter 8.